Hello and welcome to Regional Roundtable. I'm Will Stewart, President of the Greater Derry Londonderry Chamber of Commerce and your host. Regional Roundtable is a program of the Chamber of Commerce aimed at discussing issues of regional economic development importance. Our guest today is David Preece, Executive Director of the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission. Welcome to Regional Roundtable, David.
Well, thank you, Will. It's good to be here.
Great. Well, let's, kind of start very high level. What is the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission? Who are you and what do you do?
What am I doing here?
Yes.
The Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission was created in 1966 with an executive order from then the Governor Walter Peterson. He kind of created the boundaries of the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission, and the purpose was to increase communication, collaboration, and coordination between the various planning boards of the municipalities. We're here to promote kind of coordinated development. What helps one community helps another. And so we've been very successful in doing that for the last, believe it or not, 49 years.
Wow.
And we've also added two communities. So we represent 15 municipalities. The city of Manchester, the town of Derry, and Londonderry, and then 13 others.
Including also Wyndham, I believe.
And Wyndham also.
Here in our region.
We represent about 275,000 people. We're the largest in population of regional planning commissions.
How many are there across the state? You're not the only one, right?
No, we're 9. Mm-hmm. And there's also 5 metropolitan planning organizations, and we are one of them. And that function ties in with transportation planning. And so we have a whole list of obligations and responsibilities to do for the federal government and for the State Department of Transportation.
You know, a lot of people hear the phrase or the term planning, and it can be, I think, a little confusing to some people.
Right.
But we all have our, individual plans, whether for our careers or our families or something like that. But what exactly is planning in this context?
This is the one I really like. I've been in the planning field now for over 40 years, believe it or not, and I've worked in a variety of settings, both in local and regional governments, to private consulting. And I really like this term. Planning works to improve the welfare of the people and their communities by creating convenient, equitable, healthful, efficient, and attractive places for future and for present and future generations. We're here to advise, the local government assistancies and giving them options of how they should grow in the future. And I think by giving them options and giving them all the information that they need to make informed decisions, our communities can grow and development can progress in a very efficient manner.
So you talk about advising some of the communities.
Yes.
What types of activities, what kind of specific stuff do you do here in?
We do a whole array of projects for the towns of Derry and Londonderry. For instance, we have been updating their hazards mitigation plans. And what's that, you may ask? It's basically an inventory of all the natural hazards that a community has gone through for the last 20 years, and a set of mitigations that a communities probably need to have in place to reduce the amount of damage from these natural hazards, like flooding, ice storms, just to name a few.
Okay.
And then the other ones, we do a lot of traffic and transportation planning. For instance, we are in charge of doing traffic counts. And for the town of Derry, we have done 44 last year. We'll probably do the same amount or maybe more. Londonderry, 31. But besides the traffic counting, we also do traffic studies such as roadway inventory, local trip generation rates, vehicle classification, high accident, critical location, and signal warrants. We've just completed a unique study for the town of Londonderry for their Route 102, in which we looked at all of their master plans and previous development applications, and then came up with what improvements are needed for that segment of 102 to keep the traffic moving, to keep it safe, and to account for future development. We've been very active with CART, as you know, the coordinated, let me get this right, coordinated
Cooperative Alliance for
yes, that's
Regional
exactly it. That's exactly it. And from the very beginning, by doing a transit study for Londonderry, Derry, Salem, and Windham area, as well as for Chester and Auburn, and to determine what their transit needs are. And we've just completed a MTA CART connection study.
MTA being the Manchester Transit Authority.
Exactly,
Okay.
because sometime in the future, CART will have a fixed route service, hopefully, and hopefully that will connect to the Manchester fixed route services. And so people from Salem, Derry, Londonderry can get on to their CART buses and then travel up to Manchester and the Manchester airport.
Well, to me, that is, I think, a prime example of what really the benefit of, kind of having that regional approach to planning other things is to make sure that, I think here in New Hampshire, we've talked about on the show and previous shows how, sometimes a lot of communities, we tend to act in isolation.
We
do. It's very much, local control is sacrosanct, and it's kind of the New England, the New Hampshire way. But a lot can be missed if we're not talking with our neighbors. And
there's a lot of opportunities that can be missed if we don't bring people together and to have this communication and to see where we can collaborate. Resources, financial resources, are very scarce with the local governments, and they're becoming more and more challenging because of the state's funds and budgets. And the regional governments bring people together, and we kind of facilitate these discussions of how we can join forces and maybe do mutually shared projects. There's two projects. You're probably familiar with the mutual share project that we did a year ago.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it was bring together all the town administrators and key personnel from each of our towns, and coming up with a way in which of what we could do to work with each other.
Give us some examples. What does that mean?
One of them, right now, that we're kind of working with the town of Derry and Londonderry on, as well as Windham and Auburn, is to come up with an electric purchasing consortium in which these towns will come together for their municipal and for their school districts. And because they're coming together, they will have a lower electric kilowatt rate than they would if they individually went out and did it on their own.
So bigger purchasing power.
Big purchasing power. Another thing that we're doing now, and we call it the Solar Up project, which we'll talk more about, and that was basically
good lead in.
Yeah, to increase the utilization of solar panels on our residences and our businesses. And by doing that, we try to get a group purchase of solar, so that will bring down the cost of installing these solar panels by 15 to 20%, a sizable reduction. And because of this project,
we're all buying them at the same time.
We're all buying them at the same time. We've agreed on one contractor for the communities. And so it's a win-win for everyone. And with this pilot program, we decided to go with 2 rounds and 4 communities. Well, there was so much interest involved that we had, for the first round, we had the town of Francistown, the smallest town in New Hampshire. I think it's like 1,400 people. And then we had Goffstown and Bedford teaming up together to do their project. And in the second round, we will have the town of Derry and Chester working together on their group purchasing, and the town of Candia and Deerfield. So it's very exciting. And what I've seen so far in this first round is that there is a lot of enthusiasm of solar energy. And if we can bring down the cost, it's a win-win for the property owners. It's a win-win for everyone.
Win-win for the environment. Win-win
Yes,
for,
exactly.
Yeah, the bottom line of
to try to make,
homeowners.
because energy cost is one of our biggest costs in New Hampshire, in New England. And we're always trying to find, a good source of energy. Solar isn't, 100%, but, it's close to 75, and we should utilize it along with the other renewable energy.
Yeah, I think one of those kind of an all-of-the-above approach.
Yeah, exactly.
Wind, hydro, solar, all good stuff.
It's all about becoming more sustainable in our communities, and that's fiscal, environmentally, planning. So,
well, I know the solar technology has certainly come a long way in recent years, and another technology that's come along is broadband. I know that
broadband is excellent. Yeah.
Tell me, I know the Planning Commission has done some work with regard to broadband in the region. Tell me about that.
Last year, it was a 2-year plan, but we got the communities together. At that time, we had 14 communities, and we developed a regional broadband plan to determine where broadband infrastructure was needed, where we had problems of communities being underserved, where there were gaps in the system. And the plan is very important because broadband is a crucial component of economic development and sustainability. More and more people are working from their homes, and they are requiring a higher, cable access service, being able to download the internet at a faster speed. And so with this broadband, we were able to identify those areas within the 14 communities that we really needed to focus on getting better infrastructure on.
So what did you learn, and particularly what did you learn about the kind of the greater Derry, Londonderry region?
Well, there's gaps in just pockets in Derry and in Auburn and in Chester. But they're all gaps that we can and we will be able to solve in the future. We didn't have any vast areas of being underserved like there are in the North Country or in the Lakes region. And so that was a good thing. But again, we need to make those investments to keep our broadband infrastructure and all the other infrastructure up to speed.
So the plans that you study and put together, such as this, and I know you do other types of plans too, kind of your big picture and
we do like a regional plan. We do a regional economic development plan. I mean, that's very important. Regional transportation plan. And each of the plans are advisory, but they also kind of give communities a chance to see what others are doing and to bring them all together around the table to come up with a plan of action.
So I guess
for the future.
That kind of leads into my next question. How are these plans that you develop, how are they utilized? I mean, we've all, I think, hear about I've never actually seen this shelf with all the dusty plans on it, but I hear about them.
They're all on the internet now. But basically, those plans, the objective of having these